I never thought my life would come to this. Standing in the dim glow of a diner at 3 a.m., my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, faced with a choice that could shatter everything I've built. My name is Janice Harper, and for 18 years I've clung to a marriage that's fraying at the edges in a town where dreams rust faster than old cars. Every day I pour coffee and fake smiles, hiding the cracks in my soul, until a single, unthinkable offer from my sleazy boss threatens to drag me into a darkness I can't escape. With bills piling up and desperation clawing at me, I'm teetering on the edge of a decision that could save us or destroy me. What did I do when the devil whispered in my ear? Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of a cracked asphalt parking lot, the faint glow of a flickering streetlight casting jagged shadows across my worn-out sneakers. The air smells like grease and regret, a scent I've come to know too well after all these years. My name's Janice Harper, and at 42, I've got more miles on me than the old pickup truck parked behind me. I've been hitched to Tom Harper for 18 years now, a man with a heart of gold, but hands too calloused from turning wrenches to hold much else. He's a mechanic, always buried under the hood of someone else's car, coming home with oil stains on his shirt and exhaustion in his eyes. I see the way he tries, but lately he's been too worn out to notice the cracks in me, the ones that run deeper than the peeling paint on our little two-bedroom house. We live in a sleepy suburban town, the kind of place where dreams go to rust. Our home is a tight squeeze, with walls that seem to close in a little more each day. The faucet in the kitchen drips like a slow heartbeat, and Tom keeps swearing he'll fix it. But there's always another engine that needs his attention first. It's just the two of us there, no patter of little feet to fill the silence. We never had kids, though Lord knows I wanted them. That empty space in our lives, it's a quiet ache, a void that sits between us at the dinner table, unspoken but heavy. Sometimes I catch myself staring out the window, wondering what might have been, but I shake it off quick. There's no use dwelling on what you can't change. I spend most of my days at Dino's Diner, a 24-hour joint on the outskirts of town, where the coffee's always burnt and the floors stick to your soles like they're begging you to stay. I've been a waitress there for a decade, slinging plates of overcooked eggs and refilling mugs for truckers who barely look up from their phones. The place has a certain charm, if you can call it that, the hum of the neon sign out front buzzing like a trapped fly, the air thick with the scent of frying bacon and stale dreams. The counter's chipped, the booths are patched with duct tape, and every shift feels like wading through molasses. But it's a paycheck, and I've learned to grit my teeth and smile through the ache in my feet. My boss, Carl Dempsey, runs the show. He's in his 50s, with a slick smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, and a way of talking that always feels a little too personal. He's got a reputation around here for being, let's call it, overly attentive to the staff. When he leans in to ask about my day, his hand sometimes brushes my arm just a second too long, and I feel my skin prickle. I've always brushed it off, told myself it's nothing, just Carl being Carl. But there, I'm wiping down the counter at Dino's Diner, the same counter I've scrubbed 1,000 times, feeling the grit of spilled sugar under my rag. The clatter of plates echoes through the small dining area, a constant rhythm that's become the soundtrack of my life. It's just another day, the kind that drags on with no promise of anything better. The regulars are hunched over their meals, gruff old-timers who mutter their orders and leave coins for tips like they're doing me a favor. My feet are screaming after 6 hours of standing, the ache creeping up my calves like ivy, but I push through. I've got no choice. Bills don't pay themselves, and the stack of overdue notices on my kitchen table at home is growing taller by the day. I catch a moment to lean against the counter near the coffee machine, stealing a quick breather. Marla, my coworker, and probably the closest thing I've got to a friend here, sidles up with a tired sigh. Her apron stained with ketchup, and her eyes are as weary as mine. We exchange a look that says everything without words. "You picking up any extra shifts this week?" I ask, keeping my voice low so the customers don't overhear. She shakes her head, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Can't. Kids need me at home." "But I'm drowning, Janice. Rent's late again." I nod, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach. Same here. Tom's hours got cut at the shop, and I'm scrambling to cover the difference. We're barely keeping the lights on. Marla gives me a sympathetic pat on the shoulder before she's called away to a table, and I'm left with the weight of my own words. It's mid-afternoon when Carl emerges from the back, his presence announced by the sharp tang of his cologne before I even see him. It's overpowering, like he's doused himself in it to mask something else. I'm near the kitchen door, balancing a tray of dirty dishes, when he steps close. Too close. His voice is a low drawl as he says, "Janice, got a minute? Need a favor?" I shift my weight, trying to put a little space between us without dropping the tray. "What's up, Carl?" I ask, keeping my tone neutral. He leans in, his breath warm against my ear, and I feel a shiver I don't like. "Night shift's short tonight. Someone called out sick. Can you cover? I'd owe you one." I hesitate, my mind racing. Tom hates when I work late. He worries, and honestly, so do I. Plus, I'm already bone-tired, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your marrow. But then I think of those bills, the red ink screaming at me from the envelopes, and I know I can't say no. "Yeah, okay," I mutter, avoiding his gaze. "I'll do it." Carl's smile wide. It's 3 a.m. at Dino's Diner, and the place is a ghost town. The silence is so thick it presses against my ears, broken only by the low, steady hum of the refrigerator in the back. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting a sickly yellow glow over the empty booths and the chipped counter I've been leaning on for the last hour. I'm counting my tips for the night, a pitiful $12 in crumpled bills and loose change spread out in front of me like a sad little confession of how far I've fallen. My fingers fumble with the coins, my mind half elsewhere, thinking about the stack of bills waiting for me at home, the way Tom's been avoiding my eyes lately, the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. Then I hear it, the slow, deliberate creak of the back office door swinging open. My head snaps up, and there's Carl stepping out into the dim light. His presence fills the room before he even says a word. His steps are measured, each one echoing against the tiled floor like a drumbeat in the stillness. He's wearing that same faded polo shirt, untucked now, the top button undone, and his hair is slightly mussed, like he's been running his hands through it. But it's his eyes that stop me cold. They lock onto mine with an intensity I've never seen before, sharp and unblinking, like he's peeling back every layer I've tried to hide behind. My stomach twists, a mix of unease and something I can't quite name as he approaches the counter. He moves like a predator, slow and sure, until he's right across from me, leaning forward on his elbows, his face too close for comfort. "Janice," he says, his voice low and smooth, like honey laced with something bitter. "I've been watching you. 10 years you've been here, grinding away, never complaining. I see how hard you work." His words hang in the air, heavy with something unspoken, and I feel my pulse quicken. I don't know where this is going, but every instinct in me is screaming to step back, to put space between us. But I don't. I can't. My hands stay frozen on the counter, gripping the edge like it's the only thing keeping me grounded. Then he drops it, the bombshell that shatters the quiet. "I've got an offer for you," he says, his gaze never wavering. $500 cash, right now, and next week I'll make you shift manager. Better hours, better pay. All you gotta do is spend the night with me. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from my lungs. My heart starts pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it, a frantic rhythm against my ribs. My hands tremble, fingers digging into the counter's edge until my knuckles turn white. I can't look away from him, can't move, can't think straight. The diner feels smaller somehow, the walls closing in, the hum of the fridge now a roar in my ears. My mind spins, a whirlwind of thoughts crashing into each other. I think of Tom, his tired eyes, the way he still reaches for my hand sometimes in the dark, even when we're too worn out to talk. I think of our marriage, fraying at the edges, stretched thin by years of struggle and unspoken hurts. I think of the bills, that towering stack of red-stamped envelopes mocking me from the kitchen table, the late-night arguments over how we're going to make it through another month. And I think of the last 10 years at this diner, pouring coffee and wiping spills, waiting for a chance, any chance to climb out of this hole. Shift manager, better pay, a lifeline, but at what cost? Disgust churns in my gut, hot and bitter, at the thought of Carl's hands on me, at the way he's looking at me now, like I'm something to be bought. But there's another voice, quieter, more desperate, whispering about the money, the opportunity, the chance to breathe for once. $500 could clear some. My breath catches in my throat as I stand there, the weight of Carl's offer pressing down on me like a physical force. I can still feel the counter under my trembling hands, the cold, chipped edge grounding me even as my mind spirals. $500, shift manager, a way out. But the price? It's a jagged pill I'm not sure I can swallow. Yet, in that suffocating silence of Dino's diner at 3 a.m., with the hum of the fridge as my only witness, I hear myself whisper, "Okay." The word slips out, barely audible, but it's enough. It's done. There's no taking it back. Carl's smirk widens, a slow, predatory curl of his lips that makes my skin crawl. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out a wad of cash, the bills crumpled and worn, like they've been handled by too many desperate hands before mine. He holds it up briefly, letting me see the promise of relief before tucking it back into his pocket with a deliberate slowness. "After," he says, his voice a low growl, thick with implication. "You'll get it after." My stomach lurches, a sickening twist of dread and resignation, but I nod, unable to meet his eyes. I've made my choice, and now I have to live with it. At his instruction, I move toward the front door of the diner, my legs feeling like they're made of lead. Each step echoes in the empty space, a hollow sound that matches the void growing inside me. I reach for the lock, my fingers fumbling with the cold metal. And when I turn the bolt, the click is deafening. It's like a gavel falling, a final judgment on who I've become in this moment. I stand there for a second, staring at the glass, seeing my own reflection distorted in the dim light, a woman I barely recognize, with hollow eyes and a mouth set in a grim line. Behind me, the diner feels like a tomb, sealed off from the world outside, from any chance of escape. I turn back, and Carl is already moving, gesturing for me to follow him. The lights in the diner are low, casting long, eerie shadows over the worn tables and patched booths. The air is heavy with the lingering scent of grease, a smell that's clung to me for years, now mixing with the sharp tang of my own fear. We head toward the back, away from the windows, where the darkness seems to deepen with every step. He points to a booth, one tucked in the corner, hidden from any prying eyes that might somehow peer through the locked door. I slide into the seat, the cold vinyl sticking to my skin through my uniform, sending a shiver up my spine. My fingertips press into the surface, feeling the cracks and tears in the material, a mirror to the fractures in my resolve. My stomach churns, a roiling storm of nausea and regret, as I sit there, waiting. My mind is a battlefield, torn between the desperate need for that money and the sickening reality of what I've agreed to. Flashes of Tom's face invade my thoughts unbidden, his quiet smile on our wedding day, the way he'd look at me with such tenderness, like I was the only thing that mattered in his world. I remember the feel of his rough hands holding mine under the cheap arch we rented, promising forever in a voice thick with emotion. Those memories cut deep, sharper than any knife, and I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to block them out. I can't think about him now. I can't. Instead, I force myself to focus on the cash, on the promotion, on the idea of finally catching a break. $500 could pay off the worst of the bills, could give us a moment to breathe. Shift manager means better hours, a chance to rebuild. It's worth it, I tell myself. It has to be. But the lie tastes bitter on my tongue. My pulse is racing, a frantic drumbeat in my chest, and I can feel the sweat slicking my palms. making them slip against the vinyl. My uniform feels too tight, the fabric scratching against my skin, suffocating me as I sit there in that shadowy booth at Dino's Diner. The cold, hard surface of the table beneath my trembling hands feels like a cruel anchor, tethering me to this moment I can't escape. The dim light barely reaches this corner, casting everything in a sickly haze, and the silence is suffocating, broken only by the relentless ticking of the old clock on the wall. Each tick stretches into an eternity, a cruel reminder of every second I'm here, of every choice that led me to this point. My heart is a wild thing in my chest, pounding so hard it feels like it might break free, and my breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps. I want to run, to bolt for the door I locked myself, but my body won't move. It's as if I'm frozen, trapped in a nightmare I can't wake from. Carl is close now, too close, his presence looming over me like a storm cloud ready to break. I can smell the sharp bite of his cologne, mixing with the stale air of the diner, and it turns my stomach. I don't look at him. I can't. Instead, I fix my gaze on a scratch in the table, tracing its jagged line with my eyes as if it holds some kind of answer. But there's no answer here, no way out. I've already said yes, and that word hangs between us like a noose. My mind is screaming at me to stop, to find another way, but the desperate part of me, the part that's stared at those overdue bills night after night, clings to the promise of that money, to the hope of a better tomorrow, even if it means sacrificing who I am today. As the moment unfolds, I shut my eyes tight, trying to block out the reality of what's happening. I force my thoughts elsewhere, anywhere but here. I picture a quiet meadow, the kind I've only seen in old paintings, with soft grass and a breeze that doesn't smell of grease and despair. I imagine myself there, far away, untouchable, but the illusion shatters with every sound, every sensation that pulls me back. The cold table, the creak of the booth, the weight of shame that crashes over me like a tidal wave. It's all too real. I bite my lip until I taste copper, holding back the sob that threatens to break free. I won't let him see me crumble, even as I feel myself splintering inside, piece by jagged piece. My thoughts spiral uncontrollably, a storm of guilt and self-loathing tearing through me. Tom's face flashes behind my closed eyes, unbidden, his kind, tired smile a dagger to my heart. I think of the promises we made, the life we swore to build together, and how I'm betraying every single one of them in this grimy corner of a diner that's never felt more like a prison. I hate myself for being here, for letting desperation drive me to this low. I hate Carl for seeing my weakness and exploiting it, for turning my struggle into his gain with that cold, calculating look in his eyes. And yet I hate myself more for not walking away when I had the chance, for letting the lure of $500 and a title like shift manager blind me to the cost of my soul. Each second drags on, marked by that infernal clock, and I feel time itself mocking me, stretching this torment into something endless. My skin crawls with every moment, my mind a battlefield of disgust and necessity. I tell myself it's just once, just this one time, and then I'll have what I need to pull us out of the hole we're in. But the justification feels hollow, a flimsy shield against the truth of what I'm sacrificing. I've crossed a line I can't uncross, and the weight of that realization presses down on me heavier than anything I've ever felt. It's not just about tonight, it's about who I'll see in the mirror tomorrow and every day after that. When it's finally over, the silence feels even heavier, thick with the aftermath of my choice. Carl steps back, adjusting his shirt with a casualness that makes my stomach turn. There's no warmth in his movements, no acknowledgement. As the weight of what just happened settles over me like a suffocating fog, I'm left alone in the diner, the silence now a deafening roar in my ears. Carl's gone, slipped out the back with a muttered instruction to clean up before he disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness. I'm still sitting in that corner booth for a moment, my body numb, my mind a tangled mess of shame and disbelief. The cold vinyl beneath me feels like it's burned into my skin, a permanent reminder of the line I've crossed. Slowly, I force myself to stand, my legs shaky like they might give out under the burden of my choices. My hands tremble as I grab a rag from behind the counter, moving on autopilot to wipe down the table where it all unfolded. Each swipe of the cloth feels mechanical, detached, as if I'm watching someone else do it. I scrub harder, desperate to erase any trace of the night, but I know it's futile. The stains on my conscience aren't something a damp rag can wash away. I pause, my breath hitching, as I catch sight of the wad of cash Carl left on the counter before he walked out. $500, just as he promised, sitting there like a taunt. I reach for it with unsteady fingers, the bills feeling heavy, cursed, as I stuff them into the pocket of my apron. They weigh me down, a physical manifestation of the deal I've made, and I can't shake the feeling that I've traded something priceless for a handful of crumpled paper. My stomach churns as I turn away, forcing myself to finish tidying up, straightening chairs, and wiping down surfaces that don't need it, just to keep my hands busy, to keep my mind from spiraling deeper into the abyss of regret. The clock on the wall ticks toward 5 a.m., and I know I can't stay here any longer. The diner feels like a cage now, every corner holding a shadow of what I've done. I grab my purse, the weight of the money in my apron pulling at me, and head for the door. The air outside is cool, biting at my skin as I step into the early morning, the first hints of dawn painting the horizon in pale gray. I climb into my beat-up old car, the engine sputtering to life with a reluctant groan, and start the drive home. The streets are eerily quiet, not a soul in sight, and the stillness mocks the chaos raging inside me. Every stoplight, every empty intersection feels like a judgment, as if the town itself knows the secret I'm carrying. The sky lightens slowly, the sun creeping up with a cruel indifference, illuminating a world that hasn't changed, even though I have, irreversibly. When I pull into the driveway of our little house, the familiar sight of the peeling paint and sagging porch doesn't bring the comfort it once did. I sit in the car for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. I don't want to go inside. I don't want to face the normalcy of my life, not with this stain on my soul, but I have no choice. I drag myself out, my steps heavy as I unlock the front door and slip inside, careful not to make a sound. The house is silent, save for the faint drip of that cursed kitchen faucet, a rhythm I've grown to hate. I creep down the hallway, my heart pounding as I reach the bedroom door. It's ajar, and through the crack, I see Tom, still asleep, sprawled out under the thin blanket we've shared for years. His face is peaceful, lines of exhaustion softened in slumber, and the sight of him hits me like a punch. Guilt floods through me, hot and unrelenting, threatening to drown me where I stand. I lean against the doorframe, unable to move, unable to look away as tears prick at the corners of my eyes. How can I face him now? How can I pretend everything's okay when I've shattered the trust that's held us together for nearly 2 decades? I know I can't tell him, not now, maybe not ever. The truth would destroy us, would tear apart. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.